Hi everybody, welcome to our AV room. Well, today it's kind of my AV room, and I'm going to take a walk through item by item of the main pieces in my stereo setup that I listen to my records and reel-to-reels, cassette tapes, 8 tracks, and how I listen to them and what I listen to them with. Everything from carts to speakers to actual components. Now, along the way, I'll be pointing certain things out, and let's get started. Let's get right into it. So at the bottom, we have the Onkyo Compact Disc Player, model number C7030. Now, this does come with a remote, which is one of the reasons I liked it. I can sit over on the other side of the room and connect it to this CD player. Now, the other main reason I got it is because it also plays specifically MP3s. And the nice thing about it playing MP3s is I have a tremendous amount of CDs that I had burned onto CDRs back when I got rid of my CD collection. Now, the Onkyo CD player that I purchased is mostly so I could play the hundreds of CDs that I had burned into MP3 format like this here. And when I got rid of my CD collection, I went ahead and burned a lot of these CDRs. And you can see the nice thing about it is once it loads up this Onkyo player, and this is a 2015 CD slash MP3 player that allows me to do that. It'll load the disc, then it will go through the individual tracks, and I can then just use the remote in order to play the tracks. And I have a lot of tracks, and each track has multiple tracks. So you've got the album and then multiple tracks, and sometimes I have hundreds of tracks on these. You see it titles it as well if I had titled the MP3, and then starts playing. So I'm not going to play too much so I don't get a copyright strike, but that's the gist of it. And I really, really, really love this and can't wait to get a DAC for it someday. Now, sitting above the Onkyo CD MP3 player, we have the Pioneer HR99 8-track recorder. Now, this is a 1974 model, and it does have that brushed aluminum finish, which I really like, and the solid wood sides, and is very well constructed. And whenever I want to break out my Thank God It's Friday 8-track and pop it in there, I really love playing 8 tracks. I don't play them a lot, but I do play them from time to time. And you can see it's got these line levels up there where when you want to record on a blank 8-track. Now, I do have a blank 8-track or two laying around here, and that is something I've been meaning to do is make some custom 8-tracks. I haven't done that in a while. So this 1974 8-track player has adjustable recording levels, and it's really nicely cast. It's got a mic input, a headphone input, and then its functionality has one track, endless track, or all tracks, record, fast forward, program, pause. It's a really cool little sort of retro unit for my setup, and whenever I can come across a good 8-track, I like to pick it up and add it to the collection. Although they are getting harder and harder to find. But that sits on top of my CD player. And again, hopefully I hope to get some more of the air compressor pads to set underneath all these individual units. It's just, guys, it's a hobby and it's a slog sometimes to do these little manual tweaks. But when you can do the tweaks, it doesn't cost much and it makes everything just perform that much better. So next on the rack, we've got the Sound Craftsman RP2212 equalizer. And this was made in the United States during the mid to late 1970s. I have mine dated on the back at 1974. It's a 10-band per channel stereographic equalizer. It's often referred to as a record playback equalizer. And it is not an amplifier. It simply equalizes the sound, adjusting it to your room. So without getting too technical, you can actually dial in your room and really calibrate what sounds you hear bouncing off the walls, whether they're too high, too low, or you need to add bass or subtract bass. And in the middle, you have zero gain controls. If I can get up in here, these zero gain controls have adjustment lights which show you an equalization level. And you can see mine are slightly offset. Everything is slightly offset. They're not identical. And that's just my hearing in my room. And it just has test lights, a tape monitor, and an equalization for both tape level and line level coming out of your main amplifier or receiver. So I've really used this a lot in recording on reel to reel and cassette tapes, and I really find it really helps dial in the room. I also use it when I listen to records a lot because I do run my records through my reverb unit, which we'll show in a second. And between all these things, I really have dialed in that specific 70s sound that I'm really going for. My whole idea between my setup was to sort of make everything work and make it sound like what I remember as a kid growing up with my mom's stereo. And for the live concerts that I did and photographed in the 2000s and late 90s, and I really have that sound just stuck in my head of these concert venues. And these units were used a lot in churches and in concert venues to do just that, to dial in everything perfectly. So the Sound Craftsman is next on my list. Now, on top of the equalizer, we've got the Pioneer CT F4242. This is a really cool looking silver face stereo cassette deck from the late 70s. My model is marked on the back as being from 1977. And it's got this really cool feature. I'm not going to play the music, so again, we don't get copyright strikes. But what you want to do is open the door, turn it on, and you see how it illuminates. You put your cassette deck in, close that door, and as long as you've got the settings correct, you hit play and off and running. And you see it's really got those really cool VU meters that everybody loves on this unit. You can also record, obviously. It's got Dolby noise reduction. It's got a tape counter here. And it's got different settings, whether it be Chrome, standard, or otherwise. And you can turn that noise reduction on or off, depending on these dots up here. Illuminating shows you what you can do. And off. So yeah, that's one of my favorites. And you can see again, it's got mic inputs. It's got a headphone input. It's got that beautiful wood veneer on all these retro units, just like the A-Track, which also has wood on all the sides. It's just really one of those things that stands out. Now, I'm not a huge cassette guy. It's just, like a lot of you guys probably agree, while it takes us back, the sound isn't that great. You can certainly upgrade to quality cassette tapes like Maxell Golds or XLR2s, that sort of thing, or Chrome tapes. But they're getting harder and harder to find. They're getting more and more expensive. But when you're done, you just go ahead and pop that really cool door, pop out your cassette, close it again, and you are done. Really nice to add to any retro vintage setup, and I really love the looks of this thing. Now, next up, we've got my Akai reel-to-reel. This is a Akai 4000D. This is a very popular 1970s 4-track, 3-head, 2-speed, 3 3/4 and 7.5 IPS stereo reel-to-reel deck. This was quite affordable back in the day, a real consumer model, and offered a great sound alternative to the cassette decks you often came across. This is in a silver with a wood grain design. It's a one-motor belt-driven machine which was manufactured in Japan. And I was lucky enough to stumble across this at a yard sale, and it was kept in meticulous condition. Now you see there's where your RCA's ins and outs are, and it also has, you can see the XLR input as well. Now, you will find these often without the cover shell, and I do not have that. I do, however, have an Akai reel that goes on it. And like it said, this has got several different settings. It's got 1 to 4 heads, tracks, I mean. It's got stereo, which I often keep it set on, or a 3 to 2, depending on how you are using it. If you want to put mics in it, you can do that. It's got record level, You see it's got a headphone input and left and right mics over there. Now on the other side, to the left of my Akai 4000D, I've got the Akai 1721L. This is also a reel-to-reel tape recorder manufactured in Japan during the early to mid 1970s. Now, Google states this was specifically between 1970 and 1973. My machine is marked on the back as being made in 1970. This is a solid state two-head machine, often featuring either a black leatherette casing or a wood casing. And I have the wood casing. I can show you that with the wood casing. It's pretty cool. Now, unfortunately, my wood casing does have a slight nick in it, but it fits over like that. And then you clasp it on the back side right over here. There's two clasps. Now it does have this short little nick on there. See if you can see that there. See that little nick? Oh boy, let me move that. There we go. See that nick? That's the only blemish on this. I'm hoping I can replace that, fix it up a little bit, but I'm happy just to have it, whereas my 4000D does not have a cover for it at this time. So I'm happy about that. But much like the other Akai, you can see it's got the vents on the side for the speakers. This unit does have speakers. I'll go around to the back and you can see, let me see, get back here. The connections for this are in the back, and there are speaker vents in the back as well. But I have my RCAs going in the back of that unit, whereas on the 4000G, they're going in the side. Now, this unit and this unit are adjoined. How are they adjoined, you say? Well, that takes us to the next unit. But before I go, we'll show you this one again a little bit more close up. I'm sorry for all the wiggling. These are my two VU meters down at the bottom. It's got your controls right there, the forward, record, rewind, forward, and then a pause to the right. This is the pause on this unit. And on my other unit, this is the pause right here. A metal pause on this and a pause with this little button on the top. And I do have a spare one of these that I thought this was missing, but it turns out this is actually how it comes. There is no little plastic handle on the top of this, whereas there is a little plastic handle on the top of this. But they both have similar controls. They have that nice snap to them. This is the same thing. It's got that nice snap to it, rewind and fast forward. And then this is your record button you press in here. This also has mic inputs that you can have right here and controls right here for the volume for each channel. It's a really cool machine, really sounds fantastic. I'm really happy with both of these units. And as far as reel-to-reels go, as long as you're in the 3.25 and 7.5 speeds, both of these will do you justice if you can find them in working condition, which these are both in great working condition. Now, I did clean them up, open them up, lubricate them, check the belts, and everything is hunky-dory. And what you find a lot of times with reel-to-reels are that the people that own these machines in the 70s really took care of them. There were more often than not people that were really into audio or home recording, or occasionally musicians that would use these for their own recording of their own music. But they usually took care of them. And if you can find Akai models, they really have outlasted. I started with a lot of Sony models, and I was constantly having problems, and they were constantly breaking, and I could never find parts. And it turns out a lot of people agree Sony's really weren't the best. Maybe they had some high-end models, but I could never afford those. These Akai models can still be found and are quite affordable and really enjoyable for the home recorder. Now, one thing you have to keep in mind is these machines, even when powered on, don't engage until this little wheel is up and the tape running through here around over this wheel, which holds this up, and then it all illuminates. And you see down there the VU measures. And when I drop this little rod, it turns off. That's something that can trick you if you don't know anything about these. Here, I'll show you the same on this. That's when it's engaged, is when this is up. And if you don't know that, oftentimes you can think these are broken and not working. That's not true. You just have to know how reel-to-reels work. And if you're looking for one of these or you find one at a garage sale or even online, just make sure that you read up on how they work before you consider it broken. Now underneath is this little doohickey that combines both of my reel-to-reels. And that's what I was mentioning before when I say that both my reel-to-reels are connected. And they're connected by this awesome little doohickey known as the Pioneer SR202W. What it is a solid state stereo spring reverb unit. And what it did was hi-fi systems in the 70s really wanted to add some depth and brilliance, and reverb was the answer. So what you do is you connect via RCA to your tape monitor loops, which is where I said this is connected. And you see down here, I'll turn it on. It's got that cool glow. And this is your spring tension, your reverb. And you can see that little, let's see if I can get down here where you can see it more. See how that opens up into that triangle shape and then this closes? So this is no reverb, and this is adding reverb as you turn this dial. So you can see this is all the way down, and then this is all the way up. And it does have several settings that you can use on it. Obviously, it's got the power. And then over here, it's got a setting for on, off, and record. So you can turn it on, you can turn it off, or you can put it in its record mode. And that record mode, you can have your tape. Let's say this is tape A, and we'll call this one tape B. I think that's what I have it set up as. And you see here, you can tape from tape A to tape B. See on the side, on this side here, A to B, or B to A, or simply A, or simply B. And because I have my connection of everything here, including my turntable, my cassette deck, my 8-track, my CD player, I can turn that reverb unit on or off. And it literally adds depth and dimension. I'll see if I can show you that. So I've gone ahead and turned the reverb unit on. You hear that? So that's all the way up, and let's turn it down. You can add a little reverb or a lot. So you can make it sound like a cavern or an empty room depending on the reverb unit. It really adds a lot of charm to the reels. It adds a lot of depth to vinyl when playing it through this reverb unit, and I just love it. And again, a wood finish. Now my wood finish is a little bit damaged over here on the side, but overall, for its age, looks great. Now these are my very old headphones. I put them on the floor so I could open it up and show you, but I still have the box. I purchased these in 1998. And inside, you would have your headphones. So these are my Sennheiser 600 headphones. I'll go ahead and pick them up. And you can see on the side there that are open air headphones on both sides. Now I have replaced these cushions on the inside, as well as the cushion on the head, as well as the cord that came with it. Originally, the HD 600 is a very famous and well-known headphone. Now, over the years, these headphones have given me a lot of love. I'll see if I can get in here. You can see it's got this sort of stone finish on it and the branding above there. Now, these headphones I purchased, like I said, in 1998. And I got them from a company that, let's see if I can shift some stuff around here while I'm talking. This company called, oh, here, I'll lean this up here, the Headroom Company. I got this catalog in the mail because I was collecting into stereo stuff back in the day. And in 1997, when I was 27 years old and I had my first real job, I decided I was going to start buying all the gear I could buy. Now, I don't have any of that gear anymore. It was all black plastic from the 90s. I had some fancy stuff. I had a lot of nice gear, but it was all 90s gear. And I've since gone back and really focused on vintage gear. But I do have my Sennheiser 600s, and you can kind of see the open air design there. And I love these headphones. Now, the one thing they're notorious for are these connections, these pin connections. These pull out. And over the years, where they connect the pins inside here becomes tough to connect. There's a small, thin, super thin wire between here. And I've had to fix that several times, resolder it. But they've been good to me. And if you take care of these things, you can see I've got headphones from 1997. You can have them forever. And I love these headphones. So when the wife wants to go to bed and I still want to rock out, these are the headphones. Now, like I said, I got them from this company, the Headroom. And I even have the receipt here. And I purchased a few other items I'll show you here as well. And that was these amps. These are the Headroom amps. This was known as the little version, which comes with the more power supply. So you see that there, Headroom, headphone amplifier, and audio image processor. And here's the headphone jack right here. And it's got this little power switch and then a bypass switch. If I can get that here. Well, I can't do it with my left hand, but this is a little bypass switch right here if you don't want to use it. And then here's a filter on or off. And that adds an ambiance to this. There's a volume control right here, and that controls your volume. Now, I said this is the amplifier, and then this is the Headroom processor. So this does the thinking. It's sort of what the equalizer does, but for headphones. It's sort of, you can dial in your room dimension or sound to your liking using this. And then that's the amplifier for it. You see, they're long, elongated, and it has a wire which connects to the small version to the big version. And then there's power supplies for both of those and RCA cable inputs as well. But the Headroom and the Headroom power supply were one of the things I wanted to get, so much so when I was a kid. And I actually have the receipt. Look at this. So the headphones themselves cost me $349. The link cable I got was $25. I have a 15-foot headphone extension. I'll show you that in a second. And then the little more power unit was $449. So altogether, my headphone setup in 1997 cost me $875. I imagine these days that would probably be a little more than just that. So at the time, that was almost a whole paycheck for me. So as you can tell, I've been into this, as you guys, a long time. But I still have my headphone and my headphone amp, and I will be buried with these. I love these things. As I stated, this was the company, the Headroom, and they show you here basically the idea with the Headroom. It basically says with plain headphones, you get no imaging, and with the Headroom amp, you get sort of that rid of that annoying blob in your headphone image. Basically, it fills that sound all throughout between your two ears, creating a soundstage. Now we talk about with our records, that soundstage, how it opens up or feels enclosed or non-directional. So with the Headroom amp setup, you really do get that spatial, almost like you're not wearing headphones. That's really the vibe I get from this setup, is it feels like you're not wearing headphones. And if you close your eyes, that soundstage is just like it would be with the record player. And like I said, they're old as time. I've had them since the 90s, and I love these. Never get rid of them. And at the same time, when I bought those, I bought this. Now, there's really no good solid way to show this, but I'll try to hold it up. These are my Kimber cables. These are braided cables, you see, and these are headphone extension cables. And you can see that really neat braiding. That's what Kimber cable is known for. Now, if I can get down to the end of them, these are about 15 feet in length, if I'm not mistaken. And they've got these solid connections where you would plug the headphone in this part, your headphone jack, and then this part would then plug into the headphone amp, as you see there, and then your headphones here. But these Kimber cables are fantastic, and I've used them for a variety of things. Believe it or not, I've actually used them for tattooing. I've extended my foot pedal setup using these back when I started tattooing in the day. And while they're not meant to be used for that, they worked for that. And I've gone back to using them in my stereo setup. So Kimber cable, if you have the money, you can afford Kimber cable. Like anything else, people have their opinions, but I've loved these Kimber cables ever since I got them in the 90s. So back here, what is this you say? This is my realistic tape control center. This is essentially a switch box with knobs. Now you can put three different inputs into this and run it to your receiver, which is what I do. And within each input, there are several settings. This is the manual for it right here. This is the realistic Sony stereo tape control center. And you can see there a little bit clearer than I can showing you in my room. You've got your source, you've got your different deck inputs, whether it be a turntable or cassette deck or reel to reels. So I run everything through this little box here, and that sort of gives me more inputs than I would have from my receiver here alone. My receiver only has so many inputs, and this lets me expand those inputs and still keeps everything analog because these are RCA inputs in the back. You see my RCAs. Don't judge me. I have to get replacement RCAs. I'm a working artist, so don't judge me. So yeah, that's sort of how that whole setup works. And my receiver goes to this, and then reroutes depending on what I'm using. So I have my receiver inputs and then these additional inputs all with switches there. Sometimes I can't remember what goes to what, but that's part of the fun. Now we're getting to the brains of the whole outfit. This is my Sony STR6046A. This is a solid state receiver manufactured in Japan again during the 70s, generally spanning from 1971 to 1974. Like it says on Google, it's a vintage silver face receiver, often cited as a 1972 model, which is what mine is marked at, and features 20 watts per channel. Now, this is very small to many people, 20 watts per channel, but I'm here to tell you this thing puts out. And now I've got it set at the 20 watts per channel for my bookshelf speakers that are unpowered. And then I have the amp set up for my larger tower speakers that I'll show in a little bit here. But yeah, we'll go ahead and switch it on and it lights up. It's got that beautiful green light up sort of faceplate there. We'll get some reflection in the back from my computer, but you get the idea. So you've got your settings here. You've got functions, auxiliary, phono, FM, AM, and then microphone. This is your microphone input here, and you've got or your level here, and then your inputs here. This is your FM dial, your tuner. It's got a monitor setting for tape or no tape. It's got a mode for stereo or mono. It's got a high filter if you want to bring those highs down. It's got a loudness button, which I keep generally pressed in, but not always. Sometimes I don't want that loudness. If I'm listening to older music or some mono cuts, sometimes I don't like that loudness. It's got your bass setting, your treble setting, your balance setting, your volume, and then it's this inputs on the back of this for a set A speaker or set B speaker. So I have A set to my tower speakers, and then B set to my bookshelf speakers that I'll show in a minute. And then this is your tuner input showing you where your dial is going right here. And then this is the on-off. As you see, it's got a wood veneer, that wood finish on it. And again, I purchased almost everything that you see here has been purchased from garage sales. And so I've spent very little on this entire setup, and I'm really happy with this. And the beauty about this particular Sony is that it connects an amplifier. There are amplifier outputs, inputs on this receiver, and I have attached it to this ADCOM. Now, this ADCOM is model GFA 545. This is a 100-watt amp, and I'll go ahead and turn it off. That's that little red LED for on and off. And it's got a high current power amplifier instantaneous distortion alert. So should it become too hot over, anything goes wrong with it, these little left rights will pop on and give you an indicator that this thing is in danger and you need to turn it off and address it. I've never gotten to that point, but it's good to know that it has it. And that's the beauty of this vintage receiver, that I can hook up a more modern, this is a 90s model, if I'm not mistaken. I guess I could look it up, but I will. I'll look it up in a minute. But this ADCOM is from that sort of black plastic era, the 90s era. And I love this thing. And I was having problems with my tower speakers, putting out the right amount of amplitude, or they just weren't moving me. My tower speakers that I got from a garage sale. And as soon as I added this up, and I'll get to that in a second as to why, but this wasn't, that 20 watts just wasn't enough for my tower speakers. They actually craved more. And as soon as I gave them the 100 watts from this bad boy, boom, those tower speakers came to life. Now you see a lot of these I have on my, these are these little pads. These are air compressor pads. Often you'll see people selling them for stereo gear, which is what you see here. But they come in multiple of sizes, and you can cut them down if you need be, but you can get them at Home Depot, you can get them at Lowe's, and they're cork in the middle and then rubber on the top and the bottom. And they're fantastic and cheap for those of us who can't afford acoustic ISO pucks and all that sort of thing. So I've really been happy with how those have separated my components and really sort of isolated them on a budget. So how about that? You learn something new every day. I was always under the impression that this was a 90s. This is actually 80s, mid 80s, roughly around 1985. They were part of the Nelson Pass designed lineup. The successor, the GFA 5452, was made in 91 to 94, with some units reflecting 1995 dates. So this original GFA 545 was roughly 85 to 90, it states. So 85 is the most current and popular year they were purchased. So we're looking at a 1985 amp here. And it still handles beautifully. It is one of my favorite amps I've ever owned in my life. Okay, this is the Cadillac of my line. This is the Sansui SR838. This turntable was produced during the late 1970s, and most markets listed it as around 1978 being its most popular. So 1970s turntable again, most popular around 1978. This is a quartz servo direct drive manual turntable and was considered the high-end top tier turntable from Sansui during this period, often compared along with the SR929. And there have been quite a few videos on this turntable online. Some of my favorite guys on YouTube have reviewed this and taken a look at it. And I'm here to tell you, this thing is a beauty. It's got that piano black finish. I've outfitted mine with a Audiophile blue, both the head and the needle there, and the cartridge, I should say. And it's got that beautiful brushed aluminum arm. And it's got a counterweight. Let's see if I can get to it over here. See this little counterweight with a thin piece of monofilament. And you can adjust that for your tracking. And in the back, I've added a grounded brush. It's a goat's hair brush. This is from Hudson Hi-Fi. That I trimmed the end. I wasn't happy with the angle on their original trim, and I trimmed it myself, so it was perfect for my records. Now it comes with this anti-stat rubber. You see that? And then the drive underneath is here. This is really heavy. I don't know if I can get it up. No, I can't. It's awful heavy. You got to use two hands. This unit is a beast. This unit is a monster. It is super heavy, super isolated against any sort of tiptoeing across the room. Now I can jump and dance with this thing. You've got a power setting. You've got a 33 setting. You've got a 45 setting, depending on which way you go. It's got a quartz servo you can turn on or off. And you see this little red LED lights up when you turn it on. And then this projects the strobe so you can see if the speed is going at the right amount. And then a pitch control if you need to adjust that if you've got the quartz servo off. Now this over here should be in this direction. This is arm up and this is arm down. And it is manual, so it is not automatic. You have to pick up the needle, bring it over, and that's where this is key, that this is up this way and not down this way, because you want to bring this thing over and then get it in place and then lower it. And if you've got your tracking, I should say your anti-skate set correctly, it just lowers and plays. Now you do have to catch it before it gets to the inner groove or you're going to wear down your needle. You know that whole spiel. But yeah, I love this. This is my baby. I got this at a garage sale, antique mall shop garage sale.
and it was broken. It did not work. It had a hole in the side. I'm not going to show. I repaired the hole in the side. It's not horrible, but it's not great. And you see that piano finish? You kind of see it in the middle there. It did have a giant hole in the side because it weighs so much. This thing is probably, I'm going to guess, one of the guys weighed it on one of the YouTube shows and said it was like 40 pounds, 50 pounds. I can't remember. But it was a lot. It's a heavy, heavy, heavy unit. And I was like, you know what? If I can get it running, I got it for like, I think I got it for $100. I said it'll be worth it. And I actually wasn't that hard to get it repaired. Now I did have to do some soldering in the back because the cords were not in good shape. And I had somebody make me custom cords for it, and I went ahead and soldered them. You can see my speaker wire back there. We'll go over that too. But yeah, now she purrs and runs like a top. And I have this, you can kind of see two here. I'm going to see if I can focus this here. Now, this was, the feet on this are spring loaded, sort of like shock absorbers. Some of the rubber has disintegrated, and I've been looking for these replacement feet. I have found a couple times, a couple places that sell them, but they're close to $400, and I just haven't been able to do that yet. But these are holding up well, and I have this on one of those Fluence isolation boards. And this thing has been fantastic. I thought this was good on its own. It's even better on this isolation platform. This Fluence platform is very affordable and works like a charm. This is really one of the best upgrades you can do, guys. Between the cork feet and isolation, you can really dial your stuff in and have all of this stuff purring like a kitten.
Now, in the back left corner of my room, you can see this subwoofer. This is a forward-facing 10-inch subwoofer by Sony. This is nothing fancy. I got it at a garage sale for about 25 bucks. So I thought I'd add it, and it's made a world of difference when I use my bookshelf speakers. This is set through the B setup of my Sony, and the Sony receiver, when I have it through the wattage that the receiver is putting out, and I have this added to the Fluence bookshelf speakers, really rounds out that sound. Now, when I use my tower speakers, I don't use this subwoofer. The tower speakers are more than enough, but when I use those Fluence, this is what I use in addition to those. It's nothing fancy. It's probably about $100, $200 at most. And I really enjoy it when I use those Fluence speakers. So there's my little subwoofer. And as you can see, I've got it set on these little styrofoam-esque blocks that will keep it from resonating on the floor and setting those vibrations from the subwoofer. So I don't set it directly on the floor. It's actually set on these little feet. And I put the grill back on so you can see. I don't use the subwoofer with the face grill off. I leave that grill on, especially again since I have cats. I just wanted you guys to see the woofer. And if any of you are wondering how I hooked up my subwoofer to a receiver with no subwoofer inputs, it's this little kicker box. This little kicker box is meant for car stereos, and you can use it to wire in tandem to your subwoofer, so it plugs directly. This is my subwoofer output into this little kicker box. And these are some of the connections you can see that I've made to my vintage receiver. I do use banana plugs, and I've slowly been replacing all of my RCAs. I've got some monster cables amongst others here. But I'm slowly but surely getting rid of all these generic free RCAs that you see on the right with these better RCAs on the left. And I'm going to eventually have everything replaced with quality RCAs. I'm just not there yet. So next I have these Fluence. These are the Signature Series bookshelf speakers. These are really, really nice. They have a magnetic front, and you can see right there, they are very well constructed, very well constructed. I tend to leave these on when I'm not home. I take them off for listening because I do have cats and they do have access to this room.
They're generally very good cats, so don't make fun of my cats. These are very well made, and you can see they take banana plugs. They also screw up. You can put the spades in here. It takes a variety. You can even put the bare wire in if you want, but I have them soldered to these banana plugs, and I have my own stereo wire that I braided. I hope to get upgrades for my stereo wire, but right now they work great. I've really measured out the lengths and everything's dialed in, so I'm really happy with those. But if you're on a budget, these Fluence products are fantastic. And like I said, I do have that isolation. And these speakers, before I found these tower speakers, these were my speakers. And I love these things. They're beautiful. They're very well constructed. They can handle just about anything you throw at them. They also make a powered version, which I'm looking at as well for my computer setup. But yeah, these are fantastic. And there you go. I've got them on both sides. So you can see that there. Okay. Now we're moving on to the big boys. Okay, so these are the second pride of the system after the Sansui. These are my Hafler Model 300 loudspeaker floor standing speakers. These were manufactured between 1988 and 1992. Mine are marked on the back as 1988. Oddly enough, the year I graduated high school. Now, these were shortly after the David Hafler Company was purchased by Rockford Corporation in 1987. The production era 88 to 92, and they are often used Vifa tweeters and Carbino woofers. They were developed after Rockford Fosgate acquired the company and aimed at the high fidelity home speaker market. Now, the beauty of these, as I said, when I purchased them, I couldn't get them to sound right. They just weren't doing it with my Sony receiver. It just wasn't enough. And when I got that Adcom amp and upgraded it, that 100 watt, that's when these beauties really sang. I'll remove the grill here so you can see. And it is a beautifully constructed speaker. Now, this speaker, between the two of them in my room with wood floors, shakes the foundation if I need it to. Now you can see I've got the Fluence sitting on top of these right now, but when I really decide to rock it out, I take those Fluence off because these things throw some boom and bass. They are rear ported. Now these have a 91 dB SPL with 1 watt at 1 meter. They've got 8 ohms nominal impedance. And the power requirement, now this is where it makes sense, 20 watts minimum. And that's what my Sony was putting out. 200 watts channel maximum. They weigh 45 pounds each and they are heavy and have a dark oak veneer with a black cloth grill. And like I said, these things really put this sound out. They really thump my man cave to the highest extent. So when I really want to power up that Steely Dan vinyl, these babies sing. Now, the cool thing about it is that it's going to be hard to show you, but they are the wires, the plugs for the banana plugs are in the bottom of these. I'm not sure how common that is, but you can see the banana plugs in the back for the Fluence, and then the back of the Halfer, nothing, smooth. Just that port at the very bottom for the subwoofer. And that's because the banana plugs for the Halfer are at the very bottom. So I got these little feet to put them on. I have to come up with a better way, but those little feet I've got in the bottom, and they're not the greatest. They're ball bearing, so they fall apart every time I want to move these. And if you have suggestions, please let me know. But I really think these things, along with that Sansui, really rock the house, guys. I'm telling you, they sound fantastic. And that's, if you will, my system. And that is what is the basic heart of my system. Now, I'm still redoing my man cave. I'm going to get a new rug. I'm going to paint these walls. But I wanted to be able to show you guys, when I'm talking about music, this is what I'm playing it through. And while it isn't a multi-million-dollar system, I'm really happy with it on the budget that I'm on. I hope to replace the speaker cables in the back, the speaker cables going to all the speakers, all the RCAs in the back, eventually at some point. You know, when the horse has plenty of hay and the cats have plenty of cat food and every payment is made, blah, blah, blah. You know the deal. But right now, this does it for me. It's a vintage system overall. And I just love it, guys. So if you love music like I do, you really get to know your gear. And fixing it, playing with it, toying with it is my hobby. And that's why I call it my AV room. So that is everything in my AV room at this moment. Like I said, I'm going to be doing tweaks along the year as I go, replacing components or cords, mostly really, RCA cords, tidying up wires. I also want to paint and make more of a backdrop for my man cave and hopefully get it more 70s. That's really what I want to go for, is a real 70s vibe. So hopefully along the way this year in 2026, I'll be making changes visually so you have some more interesting things to look at when I do my segments here on YouTube. Well, thank you for watching this time, and I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you had a great week, and your next week is even better. Thank you for visiting me in my AV room, and like and subscribe. Leave a comment if you liked what you saw or if you have any recommendations along the way. I would appreciate them. Now, just remember, I've been doing this for a minute and this is kind of what I like. So don't come at me too hard because I have an artist budget and not a whole lot of loose money, what with the cats and the horse and the wife. And well, you get the idea. So leave some comments, like, and subscribe, and we will see you next time here in our AV room. Bye, everybody.